Jesus, we thank you for this gathering. We pray you be the Alpha and Omega of this gathering. Grant us divine understanding, whatever it shall be communicated to us. Father, give us divine understanding and give the lecturer precision of words. In the name of Jesus, we pray that your Spirit cover us and give us divine understanding in whatever it's being communicated to us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Declaration of purpose. Okay, so our inter-faculty lectures, okay, I say this at every one of these lectures, is that one of the business of a university is to stimulate research. Okay. Teaching, research, public service. Purpose of the university. Teaching, research, public service. And so one of our business here is to stimulate research and intellectual conversations. The university should be a hub. It should be buzzing with creativity, with innovation, with critical thinking. There should be an avenue where we engage in intellectual conversations in order to move, our nation forward in different ways. From a communicative perspective, and the inter-faculty lectures provide an avenue. And I'm very happy that today we also have a topic that speaks to something we can all relate to. And we have to congratulate the speaker for selecting the topic. Okay, road safety. I mean, I'm sure we can all relate to that. One way or the other. Because transportation, that's how we came here this morning. It's very important. So that is the purpose. How can we use communication to advance our society? In so many ways, health, environment, transport, different sectors. So that's the purpose for us being here. So let us all contribute, let us all pay attention, critique if we have to, but also appreciate the moment and the opportunity. People took time, our lecturers take time to do this research and come and present to us. So let's take time to appreciate this. I will now go ahead to introduce the chairperson for the occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, the chairperson for the occasion is somebody who is very well known to us. He is the Dean of the Faculty of Journalism and Media Studies. He's been in this school since 2009, if I'm right. I went to check his profile. Let's clap for him for a long time. Yes. One of the foundational, or at least people who have contributed to its growth. So he's done a lot. Okay. He's Westminster trained, Cardiff trained, Wales trained, GIJ trained, and he has a lot of experience. One of the things I like about him is that he matches his intellectual acumen with his professional experience and skills. So he has both of them covered. And when he stands in the classroom, he exudes a lot of knowledge. And so we are very grateful to have him to be the chairman for today. Okay, because practically he's there intellectually to his adept. I would like you to join me to welcome Dr. James Asante, the Dean of the Faculty of Media, Journalism and Media Studies.
Thank you, Dr. Sikan. Deans, I've seen Dr. Sando here. I don't know if any other deans are around. Lecturers, colleagues, thank you very much for this opportunity. If we scan the program, it's supposed to have been chaired by the rector of the institute, acting rector of the institute. Unfortunately, he's not around. So I'm in his shoes this morning to perform that function. He extends his apologies. She told me this morning that he wished he was here to chair this program. The fact that is dear to his heart. So when Dr. Eche said, oh, he's not coming, so do it, I will blast, you is my boss. Then also, I had to, yes. And then also my interest, motivation for even accepting to chair is that this issue of driver behavior. It's becoming unbecoming. I wish Dr. Teka should have used the word misconduct and misbehavior, isn't it? Perfect. But then, as a scholar, he wanted to elicit people's opinion, investigate the issue thoroughly so we can conclude whether they are misbehaving or they are misconducting themselves. Like Dr. Sikaku said, everybody can relate to this topic, right? We can share our experiences. I learned my driving in an environment where, right from day one, they psych you in terms of your behavior, in terms of your conduct. Whether you are gone to school or you've not gone to school, you have to. So that you sit behind a computer, you don't see anybody, and go through the test, the theory. And if you if you pass, you have passed. They'll give you your driver's license. But here, corner, isn't it? Somebody can sit at home and get it. So our behavior is like abundant for behavior. But the interesting thing is that anytime whoever sits behind the wheel becomes abundant for behaves like them because of their conduct. I can share a story with you. Back in TV3, we had a driver, religious, it's more or less like a pastor. And we were young, so we were always pushing him
to
drive fast. Especially when we have assignment and we are getting late. We say, count. You will not mind us. He's more or less a pastor, but we force him to do what he shouldn't do. One day somebody crossed him, and then he said, Amuchu did this. You understand it? I don't want to say it. Everybody says, suffer, you forget about it because of somebody's conduct. You get my point. Somebody crossed me, and then I look at him, and then he just pop. He look at me and say, crossing me, move the crown, sit down and move the driver, move. And if you look at this taxi driver who was telling me this, I have to control myself. You see? So it's an issue that we need to thoroughly investigate and find out why they are doing that. And I'm happy that Dr. Teka is doing that. He's doing that. I'm excited to listen to it because we are learning, isn't it? Yeah. We are learning every day. It doesn't matter your level. So it's an opportunity for all of us to pay attention, rapt attention, and listen to what she's going to say. Also help her shape the research. So all of us will benefit from that. I think it would help us. So thank you very much for that opportunity. I can't wait to listen to it because it's an interesting topic. And if you can help me put our hands together for even choosing this topic to talk to us this morning. Thank you very much. I'll stand by and then later I'll say what I have to say.
Yes, please let's clap for our So our next procedure now is to introduce our speaker, and then we can have a chance to listen to the speaker. Just for a second. I would like to call upon Ms. Faustina Chire, Assistant Registrar at the library, to introduce us to that. Let's clap for her.
Thank you very much. Please, Dr. Priscilla Odoom. In fact, I was finding it difficult to pronounce the name, whether it is Teka. All right. Dr. Priscilla Odoom is a lecturer at the Faculty of Public Relations, Advertising and Marketing, and the head of Advertising Department at the University of Media, Art and Communication, GIJ. Priscilla teaches courses in the areas of marketing communications, brand management, digital marketing and advertising, and health service marketing through communication. Her research interests revolve around sales. She has been a consultant and facilitator with expertise in service brand management, digital marketing, and communication, which are both private organizations. She's focused on aiding individual professional development, corporate capacity building in the area of marketing, innovation, and communication domains. Priscilla holds a PhD in marketing from the University of Ghana Business School and a member of the Academy of Marketing Services. She has authored a number of journals. She has authored a number of papers published in reputational journals, including Marketing and Entrepreneurship, Marketing Intelligence, International Journal of Marketing and Advertising, and International Journal of Health and Case Management. Please help me welcome Dr. Priscilla.
Good morning, deans, colleagues, director, ladies and gentlemen. My task for the next 30 to 45 minutes is to share with you an ongoing research on the topic perceptions underlying road safety behaviors of drivers in urban Ghana, a health belief and planned behavior perspective. Now, my presentation will take this further. I will provide a brief on social marketing. Then I'll share with you the motivation for the studies, what the study sought to achieve, how it was conducted, then some preliminary findings and some projected implications. All right, so social marketing. The idea of social marketing borders on marketing activities that are concerned with social gains rather than commercial or monetary gains. And so when marketers methodically choose marketing principles and concepts and apply them to behaviors that can be willfully adopted for social change that benefit both the individuals and society, then we say social marketing is at play. Now, social marketing is more about making the prescribed behavior more attractive. So just as you take a product and you package it, or you take a service and you package it, you take a health promoting behavior and you package it in ways that would make the behavior attractive for those who are supposed to adopt that preventive behavior. But the thing with social marketing is that it can occur at 3 levels. Social marketing can be an upstream level dealing, and when social marketing is a macro level thing, then it focuses on the larger causal agent or determinant of societal problems. And so strategies at that level would focus on policy formulation and prioritization, budget allocation, or governmental strategies. But social marketing can also be at a midstream or meso level. Then that would take a community-based approach, where strategy implementation would focus on helping people deal with poor social conditions, as well as immediate threats to household and community well-being. Then, social marketing can also be at the downstream or the micro level, where it employs tactical campaigns, interventions, and projects aimed at influencing specific behaviors in relation to social challenges, like smoking cessation, like HIV testing, like breast cancer screening, or like unsafe road practices, as is the case of this study. And so the present work I'm sharing with you argues from the downstream social marketing point of view, which focuses on individual behavior change. Now, another interesting thing about social marketing is that there are 8 benchmarks. That is, the things you look out for in a campaign or in an intervention to determine whether it is consistent with social marketing or not. And if you think about it differently, they are more like, criteria that should make any behavior change campaign successful. So, the first is behavior. How can you be changing behavior if, there are no baselines? So, behavior change, not just information provision or attitudinal change, behavior change is a foundational benchmark for social marketing. And if that is the case, then there should be behavioral goals set with baselines, and key indicators also have to be established. Then there should also be customer orientation, where you understand customers, their behaviors, what motivates them, the context within which change can occur, by using a mix of data sources that go beyond just surveys, focus groups, and interviews, to even include ethnographic techniques. Because once you do that, then you're able to tell exactly the causes of the problem. Then you can address them appropriately. Then, the last one I would speak about is the theory. Now, theories have a special place in social marketing because we use them again to understand people's behavior so that we can guide insights. Then we can guide also what are the things that compete with what are the other things that compete for the target audience's attention. What are the other things that compete for their time and their inclination to behave in specific ways? Through theories, we are able to segment the target audiences and also choose the methods mix that we can use and the various channels we can use to reach them appropriately. So theories are very important in social marketing, and please, this criteria is the one that actually partly gives an impetus to my study. And so, from there, I would provide the background, and I think we can move on. Now, road safety is a global health crisis with socio-economic implications in several parts of the world, attributable to the rampant road crashes we see all the time, which result in some 50 million injuries and some estimated 1.35 million fatalities every year, and particularly in low and middle income countries, according to the World Health Organization's 2018 report. Now, pursuant to the Sustainable Development Goal Target 3.6, the WHO and the UN developed and kick-started a global plan dubbed Decade of Action for Road Safety, which was started in 2011, and it ended in 2020, when COVID came around. But it would interest you to know that as at then, 2020, there were major decreases in road fatalities because there were extreme deviations in mobility and traffic volumes. And so it was expected that, it would put a bit of dent or some impetus to the whole decade of action. But it looked as though the reduction target, which is to reduce road crashes by 50% by the year 2030, was still a distant goal. So the World Health Organization and the UN had to relaunch the Decade of Action for Road Safety program spanning 2021 to 2030, and this time with a clarion call for unprecedented effort from all countries towards achieving the goal. Now, as of 2020, according to the World Health rankings, Africa is still a hotspot for road traffic crashes. Interestingly, Africa is the world's least motorized region. We account for just 2% of the world's vehicles, yet we record the highest rates of road deaths. And Ghana ranks as the 46th out of 183 countries captured in that report. Now, Ghana also recorded a 24.3% increase in the number of road crashes in 2021, the first quarter of 2021 over 2020, and also a 37.6% increase in road traffic fatalities, also in 2021 over 2020. Now, one of the things that worsens our road traffic crash issue is the heavy dependence on cars as the major means of transportation. which has also led to increased motorization and what we call occupational driving, where you see a lot of the youth, driving in urban areas as a form of employment without licenses and without adequate training. And so the economic repercussions of all these traffic crashes are immense because, one, most victims of road traffic accidents or crashes are said to be within the economically productive age group, people who should be working and helping the economy. Also, it is reported that households spend an estimated $1,687 on road crash-related injuries. Then the country itself loses around 1.7% of its GDP annually to road crashes. Now, the National Road and Safety Authority, which is the principal statutory establishment for road safety management in the country, attributes road traffic crashes to unsafe road practices, which include some of these: overspeeding, wrongful overtaking, fatigue and drunk driving, traffic violation, poor vehicle maintenance, among a whole lot of other things. And so, as a responsive measure, there have been some interventions, along with heightened law enforcement, to stimulate adoption of safety practices among motorists and drivers. And recent among this is the installation of traffic cameras at major intersections as part of a nationwide intelligent traffic management system. Then also the war against indiscipline intervention. Some of you may remember that was also initiated by the traffic enforcement team of the Ghana Police Service in collaboration with CCTV, to check acts of recklessness and indiscipline on the road. Now, these resulted in some arrests, several arrests actually, with fines and imprisonment imposed on culprits as means of getting them to comply to road regulations. Then much more recently, the MTTD, the DVLA, and the NRSA partnered with other relevant agencies to launch the Road Safety in Ghana campaign and also the Stay Alive 2022 campaign. Now, all these interventions and the punitive approaches, on the one hand, are valuable because they frame and address the causes of our road traffic problem at the individual level. But on the other hand, they have been very reactive and stopgap measures, ad hoc measures. They are not sustainable. And so what the studies seem to argue out is that now behaviors that are willfully adopted are much more sustainable than behaviors that people are strong-armed into adopting. And so if there is any hope of achieving extensive and sustainable road safety practices, then these interventions need to look at things from a social marketing point of view in order to induce voluntary adoption. Now, to the research gaps. Okay, now this is also just a statistics to show that anytime there is improvement in road traffic crashes in 1 year, the next year follows with hikes on all indicators. And still, I think nobody seems to know why, because 2022 recorded decreases. The blue depicts decreases. After it, then the next year there are hikes. So you're there and you're wondering, how is 2023 going to look like? Because 2022 was a bit better. Now, to the research problem with gaps, as I mentioned, besides their ad hoc nature and reactive nature, most of the interventions have also been criticized for not being driven by theory-based findings. And that most scholars find a bit worrying because over a decade ago, I think Delaney and Noir and their cohorts, they conducted a study juxtaposing safety interventions that were developed based on outcomes of theoretical applications, along with those that were developed without theory-based findings, and found that the former were more effective in inducing behavior change than the latter. Then also, most of the studies you find in the literature have focused on the causes of risky driving, aggressive driving, among other things. Now, yes, they provide some insight into addressing road safety issues, but they also lack steady theoretical cohesion and pathways for developing social marketing interventions that would culminate into effective outcomes. Then also, of all the behavioral change theories available, the health belief model and the theory of planned behavior have been extensively applied in other behavioral domains, but not so within the context of road safety. Even studies that have applied these two theories to road safety or risky driving behavior have looked at their individual predictive capabilities. But the literature suggests some complementarity between the two theories and calls for, looking at integrative theories in addressing social change behaviors. Then lastly, personality traits. Personality traits have been revitalized, and most behavioral studies have been looking at them. Even mainstream marketing literature has started, researching all over again into personality traits and how they affect people's behavior. But the road safety literature or the driver behavior literature is also a bit silent on the effect of personality traits and how they affect driver behaviors on the road. And so, as its aim, the current study integrates the health belief model and the theory of planned behavior in order to provide a theory-based insight into driver beliefs, their predispositions towards safe driving, and their road safety behaviors, grounded on those two theories. And so the objectives are these. We want to determine the effect of belief variables. I know some of the things I'm mentioning are a bit strange. I get into the literature and it will become clearer. So we determine the effect of belief variables on the road safety behavior of drivers. Then we also want to examine the mediating role of their attitude towards road safety in the belief-behavior relationship. Then also we assess the confounding effect or the moderating effect of personality traits on the belief-behavior relationship. And so I'll move straight to the theories. Now, this is the health belief model. The health belief model is a health-specific model that assumes that health behaviors are a function of a range of perceptual or behavioral factors, and that people would take up a health-promoting behavior if they believe, first, they are vulnerable to the risks that come with the alternative of such a behavior, if they also perceive the risk and consequences as serious for them personally, and also if they believe that the advantages of engaging in that health behavior overshadow the corresponding difficulties or costs that might come with engaging in the behavior. Now, the theory also argues that cues to action and self-efficacy are also important to health behavior adoption. And cues to action are things that make the risk of health issues more pronounced or more visible. So they can be mass media activities, they can be your personal experiences or experiences of others. They can also be public and social events. Anything that will project the risk that come along with the health behavior is considered a cue to action. Then self-efficacy is a person's confidence in his or her own ability to engage in a behavior. So to take up a healthy behavior, all these factors will affect your decision. And this is used as the baseline theory for the work. But the second theory, that is the theory of planned behavior, suggests that intentions are the immediate predictors of a person's behavior. That is, before we behave, we first form intentions. But our intentions are also formed based on three things: our attitude, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control. Now, attitudes are favorable or unfavorable dispositions towards a behavior. So you may dislike or like a behavior because of something. The because is what we call the beliefs you hold about the behavior. So attitudes are also not just formed on their own. They are formed based on behavioral beliefs. I may find a behavior fun or exciting because of a belief I hold about the behavior. I may find a behavior acceptable or unacceptable because of a belief I have about the behavior. Then, that attitude is what will influence my intention. Then there are subjective norms. Now, subjective norms are the perceived views or significant others. So what we think, those within our close social circles think about the behavior also influences our intention. So if our family approves of the behavior, if our friends approve of the behavior, if our colleagues approve of the behavior, it affects our intention to engage in the behavior. Then the perceived behavioral control is just like the self-efficacy variable from the health belief model. It's the confidence we think we have in performing the behavior and the control we think we have over the behavior. So if all these three things are present, the intention to perform the behavior is very strong. Now, they have an additive effect because even if one is absent, intentions can still be formed as long as the other two can compensate. But the more, the stronger the behavior. And when given the opportunity, then that intention will translate into a behavior. So intentions and behavior do not necessarily occur concurrently. Intentions precede behavior. Now, here is the thing. Now, in the integration process, I must be quick to add that I had to take out some of the variables of the model. So I have the two models here, but you don't see self-efficacy from the health belief model because it overlaps with the perceived behavioral control component of the theory of planned behavior. So self-efficacy is out, but behavioral control is here and social norms is here, and behavior is very common to the two models. Then also, I did not include intentions in the model because like I mentioned earlier, literature suggests that there should be a time lapse between measuring people's intention and measuring their actual behavior. Measuring them together is a bit flawed. It's either you measure the intention and use it as a proxy for behavior, or you measure it, give a time lapse, and measure whether they carry out the intentions or not. And because the study is a cross-sectional study, intentions was not included in the model. So this is my research model, and it hypothesizes that the road safety behavior of drivers will be based on these variables. The extent to which they think they are vulnerable to road accidents, the extent to which they consider road accidents as severe, the barriers they think would affect their engagement in road safety practices, the benefits they think they would derive or accrue from behaving themselves on the road, and the extent to which they feel they have the competency and the capability to behave safely on the road, in addition to what they think others within their close circle expect of them as drivers on the road. But it does not end there. I then use attitude as a mediating variable. That is to say that even though these belief variables can directly affect behavior, they can also do that through attitude, because at the very least, we form attitude towards behaviors. So if the belief variables affect attitude, then they affect behavior, then attitude will be functioning as a mediating variable. So this is the partial model. There is a third thing. I mentioned personality issues in my gap and problem statement, remember. Now, personality traits are just consistent, stable patterns of behavior, habits, and feelings that we exhibit. So these have been used in one way or the other in the literature, but two of them have been very dominant. That is conscientiousness and neuroticism. They have been known to play parts, divergent roles in the road safety literature. So I focus on just the two, not all the 5 personality traits. Now, neuroticism, is a personality trait that is characterized by, the disposition to have negative emotions. So neurotic individuals are mostly anxious, they have anxiety issues, they have anger issues, they are mostly depressed, and then they also have personal insecurities. Now, neurotic individuals are also mostly stressed, tense, irritable, and very impatient. They find it difficult to deal with problems, and so they are mostly unproductive in managing their own stress situations. And the driver behavior literature has depicted that neurotic individuals have a tendency to hate driving. They also have a tendency to be angry drivers, risky drivers, and aggressive drivers. And it doesn't end there. People who are high on the neurotic trait, they have higher levels of risk. So they perceive higher levels of risk. They have lower self-confidence or self-efficacy beliefs, and they also have low perceptions of behavioral control. Those kind of people who always feel things are not under their control, that it has to be some other power or somebody else influencing what is happening in their life. Then, they also have higher perceived barriers in most behavioral domains. That is to mean, if they are to engage in any behavior, they're always looking for excuses as to why they wouldn't do it. Then, the second personality trait, which is conscientiousness. Conscientious individuals are very organized. Conscientious individuals are self-disciplined. Conscientious individuals are also, very self-controlled. And the literature has also shown that because of their well-ordered nature, people who are highly conscientious, they tend to be law-abiding. They also like to uphold rules and regulations. And they like to, conform to social norms. But they also have very high behavioral control. So when you look at these two, the literature has suggested that neurotic people engage in a lot of risky and aggressive driving, but conscientious people engage in more safer driving behaviors. Now that is a direct thing the literature is saying. So if you are neurotic, this is how your driving behavior will be. If you are conscientious, this is how your driving behavior will be. That is not what I am looking to replicate. I introduce personality traits into the model as a moderating variable. That is to see if I establish that perceived susceptibility actually affects people's driving behavior, the extent to which we feel vulnerable to road accident. If it affects driving behavior, would that effect be the same for conscientious people, or it will differ for them and it will differ for neurotic people? That is what I seek to establish here. So this is the full research model, and along with the hypotheses that were developed. Now, how was the study conducted? Now, I carried out the study within the framework of the positivist paradigm, and so I used a deductive approach to reasoning. The work itself was explanatory because, as the framework showed, I just want to explain the relationship between these variables so that they could be used, outcomes of it could be used for interventions and campaigns towards road safety. And it was also a purely quantitative study, or is, because it's still ongoing, a purely quantitative study. Then, when it comes to the data collection, now all the variables you saw in the framework had to be measured somehow, and because they are established scales that measure them, I didn't have to ask people any questions. I just took those scales and had people respond to the statements placed in the questionnaires. And I used an online and an offline survey. The online survey was targeted towards the private car drivers, and the offline paper and pencil was targeted towards the commercial drivers. And the data is still coming in. Now, I have about 387 responses, and the sampling approach was convenient and snowballing particularly within the context of online, because you send a link to somebody, you ask them to forward it to anyone who they know drives. So that is a snowballing approach. And then for the analysis technique, I use a covariance-based structural equation modeling. All right. Now, okay, I mentioned this, how the various statements in the questionnaire were derived. So the HBM variables from these sources measured with 22 items, the personality variables from the personality inventory, the attitude from the driver attitude framework. But during the analysis, it's an 11-item framework, but about 4 of the statements didn't load. In essence, those statements don't apply in our context. Or when it comes to attitude, they are not good measures of attitude within the Ghanaian context. Then the TPB variables too were measured, I think with 10. Then the road safety behavior itself too, I used the driver behavior scale. And then out of exploration, 8 remained. That was. Now, I must be quick to mention that the data analysis itself took a 2-stage approach. I had to explore the data first with about 150 respondents before I started actual data collection. And now, this is just a case review. And please, the findings are preliminary though. Yeah, so you see the driver profile, we see the dominant age group there. And we see the gender profile, we see the dominant gender in blue there as well. Then we see the driver category, we see the private drivers and more. Letting the commercial ones to feel it's a bit hectic. So, and then we see the driving experience, to we see the dominant year of experience in blue there as well. Then the average driving hours in a day. And I think that makes sense because of the huge number of the private car drivers. Because obviously truck drivers are mostly on the road for longer. If they had been more represented in the sample, I think that would have been a bit reversed. Then the involvement in road traffic crashes. The respondents were asked if they had ever been involved. A huge chunk were never. About a third of them said yes, they were involved. And it occurred to me, probably should have asked them the severity of the crash. Because scratching somebody on the road is a different thing compared to, actually getting involved in a victim accident. Okay, yes. This is still part of the exploratory process. Now, even when you take scales from established research, you still have to see that the data that comes with it within your context fits. So I had to confirm the scales after they were explored. It's still a purification process for the data, just to be sure that the outcomes of the work really reflect what it should be reflecting. So we carried out the confirmatory factor analysis, and the ones in the green rectangles are the statistics of interest. So we have the standardized loading, the convex alpha, which depicts the reliability of the statements, that they are measuring what they should be measuring. If they were lower than 0.7, it will mean that statement shouldn't be measuring what I put it under. Then the AVE variables, which is also about the validity of the statement, as well as the composite reliability variables. Now, when we looked at the model, there were three relationships I purported to look at. The direct effect of the variables on road safety behavior, then the mediating effect, and then the moderating effect. So far, I have only played around the data by running the direct effect to see which of the variables directly affect the road safety behavior of drivers. And you see the ones in red had no effect. That is to say, perceived benefits affected road safety behavior. Perceived barriers affected road safety behavior but negatively. Then cues to action affected road safety behavior. Behavioral control affected, social norms affected. But that is not just it. We need to look at the beta values. So you see, cues to action has the highest number. It means it is the variable that has the highest impact. That is to say, if there is anything that stimulates drivers to want to behave safely on the road, there are things that actually remind them of the risk of crashes. And it's quite, I don't find it interesting. I find it a little awkward because I was thinking that the severity and the susceptibility itself, the fact that I'm on the road every day and accidents could happen at any time, should be something that should, jolt me into wanting to drive safely. But those didn't have any effect on their driving behavior. And the fact that even when an accident does occur, that is the severity, that it can be serious. I could lose my life, whoever else could do, I could get disabled and all that, perceived severity, but even that did not affect their road safety behavior. Then I was thinking, so what could it be? Is it that we perceive lower risk in Ghana? But I had to go back and explore the data a little bit further. It really showed me that no, risk perceptions exist. We perceive risk. The mean and the significant levels that we perceive risk, even with varying levels. See, for perceived susceptibility, that is how vulnerable we think we are to road accidents. There are variations between male and females, just that the variation is not significant. When it comes to perceived severity, the seriousness we think a road crashes could come with. It's not just that, like I said earlier, crashing somebody's car, but somebody could lose their life. When it comes to that, you see that there is a significant difference between males and females on that angle, only meaning that women perceive more severity with accidents than males do. Now, we might want to go further and explore it and know what is happening there, but as it stands, we are yet to understand. Then also, when it comes to involvement in road traffic crashes, now those who indicated that they have been involved in road traffic crashes before, their perceptions of risk is lower than those who haven't. Yeah. You would think that, oh, okay, because you've experienced it, yeah, it will scare you, but the data is not showing that. That's what I was also expecting. I've been in a road crash before. I see how it can be, how scary it can be. So that was not the case. Those who reported that they have not been in road crashes before, they perceive more susceptibility and more severity. Now, I think an explanation will come later. But then, with the driver categories, there were no significant differences. No significant differences. But you see that the commercial drivers, their susceptibility to is very low. Then again, then what might that mean? Now, one scholar was arguing that he called it learned helplessness, knowing that something would happen anyway, and it has happened over and over and over, and you feel that you don't have any control over it, but then you just give up. But then my data disagrees, because that giving up would then mean, then you are assuming you don't have control over it. But perceived behavioral control was high, and it had an effect on their road safety. It means they know that they can control their behavior on the road. So even the idea of learned helplessness does not do it for me. Could it be that it is some kind of cognitive adaptation rather? We are looking to explore that angle as well. But the findings only mean cues to action. The things we see on the road every day that serve as reminders of road traffic crashes have the highest impact on our road safety behavior. Perceived benefit, the gains we think that can accrue to us from behaving favorably or positively on the road. And social norms. What people around us think. So it could be Mr. Nchugan is leaving the house and the wife says, drive safely. It carries a lot of weight. Or you are leaving the house and your kids wave at you that mommy see you in the evening. That carries a lot of weight. And all these things have implications for interventions. It only means that if you're focusing on the significant others in the lives of those on the roads, it could carry some impact. Then behavioral control, obviously, and the perceived barriers. But like I said, perceived susceptibility, vulnerability and severity to road crashes, they didn't have any. Now our thinking is that road safety behaviors, yes, are not driven by perceptions of crash risk, but rather by the gains of road safety practices. Then also by social approval from others to engage in safe driving, reminders that signal the importance of safety behaviors. Then, the non-significant risk effect does not suggest lack or low risk perception. We perceive risk, but it just doesn't have effect. So I'm again thinking that could it be that the effect of risk could be explained through some other mechanism that is not captured in the analysis as it is. Because the risk exists, it just doesn't have the effect. And then it goes on. And so, now there's some preliminary recommendations we have is that now, if interventions can emphasize the benefits of safety practices, instead of focusing on the negative outcomes of unsafe practices, then there can be some willful behavioral adoptions because severity and perceived risk does not work. Then if they could also highlight the key influencers' opinions about safety practices, key influencers in the life of the drivers. Then if they can also use the benefits and significant reference to provide relevant cues, if they can also minimize barriers. And all these are tentative. There is a lot that can be gleaned from the data, and we are hoping to do that. If they can minimize barriers by highlighting the magnitude of the gains, that could also work. And so, the expected contributions from a theoretical point of view, we think when the entire work is done, it will expand the socio-psychological determinants of road safety behavior within the Ghanaian context. It will also expand the predictive power of the HBM and the TPB, that's the two theories, into the road safety context, and also respond to the incessant scholarly calls to integrate theories in order to understand social change behaviors. Then also, it will provide some empirical grounds to develop evidence-based road safety intervention, tailored to the beliefs and specific personality traits, gender, and driver categories, and also profile some actionable pointers for the various agencies responsible for road safety issues in the country. So, well, we are looking forward for something more insightful. And I think that's it.
Thank you very much. I think we all agree that was a great presentation. Okay, so this is really, really good work. I'm very excited. You see, you guys, you may not realize it now. Well, I shouldn't say you guys because our lecturers know, but let's do it. Sorry. No, this is excellent. Let's clap for it. This is how to do it. No, this is how to do the thing. Yeah, this is it. You see, me when I was sitting, I was just saying, oh, if I had this, previously, or I wish they know what is happening. Yeah. Some of our graduate students, I wish they were here. The master's people. Yeah, I wish they were here. I was just enjoying it. It's not every time that you enjoy academics. Sometimes it's tough. But I enjoyed the way she was able to mix the theories and tease out the relevant parts in a way that is so beautiful. Somebody will say orgasmic. So, this is nice. So good job. I enjoyed it. Good job. So, but let me not get ahead of myself. My job is very limited today. Let's do moderation. So I will call upon the chairman to give us his remarks, but to come and occupy this seat.
Questions before remarks or remarks and focus?
What do you prefer?
Questions first. Thank you very much.
And then,
Dr. Scott. Another round of applause. Yeah. So now the floor is open. If we have any questions, any contributions, you are welcome. Yes, I thought as much.
Somebody's understand. Oh, okay. Dean.
Yes, I'm a bit curious from her statistics. You can see, Doc, this is a very good presentation and I love it. But from the statistics, there was one significant thing I picked that during the COVID period in 2020, there were not many road accidents. But you explained that usually in a particular year when there are few road accidents, the next year the figures go up. From a driver's perspective, a personal perspective, how would you explain that? Thank you.
Sure. I think that was very insightful, and I'm not surprised that you are the most cited academic in the entire University of Media Arts and Communication. You have demonstrated that this morning. It's a good path, and I'm proud that you're in my faculty. First of all, this is a very germane topic because I remember in 2020, 2021, and of course in 2022 when issues of COVID became a very global issue. In Ghana, road accidents were killing even than COVID-19, and that's what the records say. So the killings of road accidents were more than the deaths that were recorded as a result of COVID-19. So it tells you that road accidents were even a bigger pandemic in Ghana than COVID-19. And your presentation today has given me a lot of lessons and also a lot of grounds for future research. For example, it tells you that from what we are seeing, using road signs in your campaign against road safety would be way better than all of the other campaign interventions we see, which is heavily based on what I describe in the literature as negative emotions, where you are using fear. So sometimes you are driving and you see 16 people died here, and 70 people were killed here, and all of that. You see that, especially on the Cape Coast Road, you see that a lot of the times. So it tells you that when you cause the fear, Yehuda, we've seen it all along, so we don't care. Those things don't move us anymore, but rather reduce your speed, you know, and a more encouraging and a more positive emotion would suffice. I have also learned something very important. You know, there's a vehicle, I don't know the brand, I've forgotten the brand, but when you are driving and you go beyond a certain speed, a certain mark on the speedometer, you start seeing a coffin. Or you can actually program an image into that, where, for example, you see your son, you see a family member, you know, once you do that, you see that popping up. So when you spoke about the fact that social norms are influences of a change, you know, a change in our behavior, then that also reminded me of that. I am also curious, could celebrity endorsers or influencers beyond our immediate environment cause any change in behavior, road safety behavior? And that would call for a future research, because when you talk about celebrity endorsement, it's been tested in political campaigns, it's been tested in commercial marketing environments where, for example, we say a celebrity you believe in consumes product A or brand B, and so because of that you consume same. But I don't know if that can play out in road safety. So this may be road safety 2.0 research in Ghana. So please, you and I will work on that. Don't take the idea alone. Then for the purposes of learning, my question is, again, when you talk about snowballing, the mere fact that I received your link and shared to someone, is that snowballing? I sincerely don't think so, but you may want to throw some more light. What I know about snowballing is I am getting the next person as a result of what I have heard from you. So based on my interview or my questions from you, based on that, then it is a referral. So you actually refer me to someone who is like me, who can get the same information you are getting from me, or there is an additional information you need which I couldn't provide to you, but I'll recommend the next person who gives you that particular information. Then we'll talk about snowballing. I don't know if so you may want to touch on that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we got one more question.
So it's a fantastic thing. What you looked at, I think, is excellent, especially combining these very two powerful theories in social marketing. I want my question would come as something more opposite what the statement Professor Michiga passed. He mentioned something about the fear appeal, but the fact that you spoke about social norms in there, I think no matter what, fear appeal will always have some reason there. And that's just my small comment about the whole thing. That fear appeal should still have some validity in there. But it's a fantastic thing. I just hope that people can see the relevance and see how important your field is now, your departmental field, advertising is now, and how they should craft the advertising messages to tell stories. There are certain places where we could move in a positive light, and there are certain places where the negative might work much better. So mine is just a simple comment, and also to let others, especially our female students, see that you have a lead scholar here. So please, I beg you, come and join academia. We have champions here. And congratulations once again. Fantastic, fantastic.
Right, so I'll take Dr. Sandro's question first. She asked about the COVID period. Yes. Now, the International Transport Forum's report showed that in most countries there were, decreased mortality and but in some too, because of the free road, there were a lot of speeding on the part of the few who were on the road. So resulting in more crashes than would have been even if there were other people on the road. Now, that is what accounted for, people were home, the roads were free, so in some countries, no accidents, no crashes. In others too, people took the road and they were just going it all alone. But the issue of the hike, now I mentioned that because the approaches that have been adopted to addressing the issues, once the issues are working, once there is some kind of improvement that is seen, then you see a bit of complacency setting. Then situation just reverts to what it used to be. Mostly because, from our point of view, that the adoption of the behavior was not willful. It's not sustainable. Just like the finding them, arresting them, throwing them in jail, getting them to pay money. And once the police get off the road, you see that the same things that were happening will keep happening again. But if there is something that could get them to say, oh, okay, I should just do what is right, I should just drive below the speed limit, I shouldn't be using my phone when I'm driving, I shouldn't be tailgating someone, I shouldn't run a red light and all these things. If people can just make these decisions for themselves, then this, erratic, statistics we keep seeing might not be. Maybe it will rather flatten out. And that is the whole argument. And social marketing can do that. We take road safety. Yeah, that one is beyond the scope of my study. Dr. Sandor is talking about the police and their, issues, but it's beyond the scope of the study. So I can't really say much about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. More questions?
I'm not addressed. Yeah, so the snowballing question, yes, it is snowballing. When I see the way you explain snowballing, you explain it from a pure qualitative point of view. But snowballing is used in quantitative. As long as I say, do you know anybody who drives? Please forward the link to any driver. And the base technique was convenient, then yes. And there is a filter question, and it's about, do you have a driver's license, do you drive and all? Then it passes as snowballing. It doesn't have to be face-to-face, it doesn't have to be interviews. Mr. Michigan is a qualitative person. Yes, there were two questions.
Me?
I wanted to even support what you were saying, but
All right.
Please support.
That's
because
it.
we are learning. Oh no. We are learning. Yeah. So support. So that people will hear. You never know.
So, Dr. Odoom actually mentioned the key word, screening questions. So the fact that she had screening questions alone meant that anyone who got the link was actually being put in a position whereby they could actually be part of the study. And remember, there are all non-probability sampling, so they can still be applied in the manner that she uses it. But I think in the quantitative bits, they're a bit more personal about it. So by quantitative, that's how we do it. That's generally it.
Sharp. Now you can see the quantitative people behind you and the quantitative people here.
The philosophical work.
Yeah. But you see, it's important. I hope it's a filter question. You know what the filter question is before you get to your research design class. Yeah. So it's a screener. Yeah. So it's good. Anyway, any more questions?
So the students haven't heard anything that ask questions.
And it's also called the repetition function.
Oh, let's clap for our senior.
Thank you very much. And I have to tap the shoulders of Priscilla for great presentation. Second of the series, from my perspective. I think this is the second time around. The first one was, good one. This one is a very good one. Normally, from the social science perspective, especially for those of us who are anthropologists, we always want to see the blend of interdisciplinary approaches in tackling issues like this. So I had to move to the village for a 1 week celebration. I said, no. I tell them that I'm so busy I can't come. I have to come for this meeting. After which I can go. I think I've had very good, insightful learning. Now, all along, I've been talking about the fact that social issues should be approached from a multidimensional approach. today, sitting to this lecture and hearing the approach from the social marketing perspective, I think I'm getting it right. Because all along it has been like, let's recruit people of various dimensions in terms of background, and then let's see how we approach it. But from the perspective of social marketing, I see that you have a lot more to contribute, especially when you brought in the issues of the quantitative aspects, blending the theory that you use. It sounds right that the motivational process should be used, but we want a lot more from the social marketing approach. But I think there's a new dimension that I'm seeing, especially when it comes to issues of social problems and their solutions. So once again, a good tap on your shoulder. You've done a very good job.
Thank you very much, sir. And before we leave the sampling, since there were no questions, let me quickly add this. So look, you said convenience, snowball, I just want to understand, is there a reason why you chose that? Because I know the gold standard is the other way around. So one, what was the reason? And then, how do you think that then affects not just the outcome, but in terms of the generalizability of the study, So, and it's RICO or I know you did the reliability thing, but how much should we take the study in light of the fact that it's convenient, and reflective of social reality?
All right, so Doc, I take it that when you said the other way around, you mean I should have gone probability sampling. Okay. Now, yes, ideally, quantitative studies should use probability sampling, but there are, for want of a better word, exigent situations in which, or exceptions, where quantitative work can use non-probability sampling, which should be a qualitative thing. And one of those times is when you don't have a sampling frame. And a sampling frame is when you have a complete list of the population of interest. So if I had a complete list of licensed drivers in Ghana, then I would have had a sampling frame. Then I could have used a probability sampling. Any of the 4 types of probability that I will randomize or I'll do some kind of stratification and that, but there was no sampling frame. Then from the, the word is lost. The exception. From the exception point of view, when the population is this large, there are some rules of thumb that can be applied. And one, the sample size can be based on the type of analysis you're doing. So you have scholarly support. If you're doing regression, there are scholarly support for a certain number being quoted as being suitable. If you're doing factor analysis and confirmatory factor analysis, there are rules of thumb. Methodological scholars will say that, okay, this sample size is enough. When you're doing structural equation modeling, then we like to fall a lot on her et al. And saying anything above 300 is suitable for the research. So in my case, in the absence of the sampling frame, which meant I couldn't do any kind of probability sampling, I fell on the rule of thumb that governs the exploration I did before the confirmation and the structural equation modeling, working within the boundaries of her et al. That 300 and above is okay. Even when I felt that was a bit still simplistic, Tabachnik and Fiedel also suggest that when you have a scale, that is your questionnaire, you use a 10-to-1 ratio. That is, each statement, not the demographic measures, each statement measuring the actual variables in the work should have 10 respondents to it. Then there is another viewpoint which is a 5-to-1 ratio. That would give you an upper boundary and a lower boundary. And I had about 53, which would mean if I was going with Tabachnik and Fiedel, the 10-to-1 ratio would mean 530 respondents. But if I were using Luna Lee's rule of thumb, that would mean half of 530. Yes, that would mean 265 or so. So yes, there are justifications for that. And you know, if you couple that with all the reliability and the validity measures, I think then the outcome of the study is generalized.
No, I appreciate it. And the reason why, I'm not quantitative, like, really. But that's why I asked, just to know and to learn. Because some of our students, the thesis process and all of that, they use a lot of it. But then they are not able to explain why they have to. That's so really just from a peripheral perspective. So I just wanted them to hear that, from you. Yeah. So that. Anyway, do you want to respond to HOD?
This was a comment.
HOD's was a comment, so.
Yeah. Okay.
An applause.
Okay, great. Okay, any more questions? Okay, a couple, okay, so I'll take you, and then I'll take you.
Okay, Doc, in your presentation, you spoke about the road traffic causes in Ghana. Sorry, my name is Edith. And we know the poor vehicle maintenance you spoke about. Most of our long-distance drivers, they are very much aware that their cars or buses are not in good shape for them to travel, yet they overspeed. Knowing also that you are in the advertising field, I want to ask, how best do you think we can help advertise or put on billboards to let them know how important it is to maintain their buses and cars? It seems the 18 good idea is not scaling them enough for them to. Yeah, so I think that's my question.
Okay.
Madam, please, our question is simple. We want to know if we are advertising for or against road accident. Should we use the fear appeal, or should we use the emotional appeal to advertise?
Yes, please. My name is Michael. Each and every year we know that accidents happen, road accidents for that matter. And we are aware that constructing double roads and using train will help minimize those accidents. Why is that we don't see anything, like we don't do anything about it?
So, hi. Yes, your question about emotional or fear appeal. So, Mr. Eshuga, the reason he splits the two, yes, we understand that fear is emotion, but fear appeal has been able to establish itself as an independent appeal, given how frequently it's been used and how effective it has been. So when you go into advertising literature, you see that you have emotional appeal standing on its own, then you have fear also standing on its own. So if you're asking if you should use fear or emotional appeal, based on the outcome of my work, these findings are preliminary. But still, from the preliminary things I had there while working with the data, it looked like cues to action and the measures we use never really have any. Never really captured any component of fear. If perceptions of severity and vulnerability had been significant in the work, then it would also only mean that then the interventions that have been using the fear appeal should have been working. But they were not significant, actually giving us some insight into why they are not working. So if there is a standard that is not working, there will be a need to look at it differently. And the superficial analysis already is showing that focusing on the benefits that they can derive. Yes, you can still project benefits using other forms of positive emotional appeals, not necessarily the fear appeal. Barriers can still even be projected without necessarily using without necessarily using fear appeal. And it doesn't even end there. Even the fear appeals, it should come with a certain level of severity. We discussed that. Yes. So the intensity of the fear itself will matter. There can be fear appeals that don't necessarily look like fear appeals. So, you know what I mean and where I'm going with this. Okay, then, Michael, please refresh my memory. I think. Yes, the construction. So when I spoke about the social marketing issue, I made a clear point that my study is focused at the downstream level. So there can be macro level social marketing activities that will be targeted towards changing behavior of policymakers. Yes. So this whole road construction issue, Mr. Michigan also mentioned something about vehicle technology and all. When you think about all of these, they are at the macro level. So studies that want to address these would be doing some macro level social marketing research. But it's also not just about the roads, is it? Even at the community level, there is a huge issue between commercial vehicle drivers and their owners, which is a community, that's the meso-level social marketing activities. They also finger the vehicle owners for being the ones, paying them very little, asking them to work a lot of hours, not maintaining the cars, making them drive while they are tired, which also contributes to the road accident. So while this study may be addressing the issue from an individual point of view, actions are needed at all three levels for a comprehensive and a lasting solution to the road traffic issue. So road construction, macro level social marketing.
And you said using trees also.
Yes, alternative transportation means, again, macro level social marketing issues as well.
Awesome. Any questions? Other questions?
Hey, see, did I address your question? It seems like I have forgotten. Please refresh my memory. Yeah, I know you spoke about vehicle maintenance. Yeah, but the punchline.
I was asking, since you are in the advertising, how best can we advertise? Put up billboards or signage and saying that, you have to maintain your vehicles or buses just so you can save lives.
Well, since cues to action also worked in the same line, and the causes of the road accident besides the fatigue and whatever you're mentioning is also part, the outcome of the study will address that as well, hopefully. But if you are looking for specifics about the message strategy and executions now, unless the work is done, anything we say now would also be getting ahead of ourselves.
Then in the recommendations, she made some preliminary recommendations in terms of Wednesdays and Thursdays. So I think that can also guide you in terms of your advertising, if you want to do that. I know you're a visual guy, so you're thinking how to yeah. So that maybe she can go back to some of the recommendations later or talk to you. Alright, any other questions or comments? Okay, so maybe this is the time to get the chairman's remarks, since we don't have.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sikan. Unfortunately, the speaker took my diary away from me, so I couldn't jot down more. But on a more serious note, I think that it's been insightful, right? Some of the questions border on policy. We need government intervention to address some of the questions they ask. Somebody is saying that despite the art and thing, there's still accidents. I mean, I like the word behavior and intention as contained in the research. It's about our behavior, our conduct. That's what we have to deal with, right? It's like there's so much indiscipline as far as our road issues are concerned. So I'm thinking that we should encourage government to invest more in research. So we come out, empirical-based evidence, to borrow the words, right, to guide our policy. as they relate to road traffic issues. The discipline is too much. Personally, I don't see the reason why drivers should be driving on the shoulders, especially commercial drivers, shoulders of the road. It's not the best, isn't it? We arrest them today, tomorrow, they are still there. So it means there's something wrong. They are sent to court. I mean, I personally think that the punishment is not punitive enough to deal with some of these situations. So I'm thinking that they need to review the whole law as far as these road safety issues are concerned, and to help us save lives and property. We are losing lives, we are losing property, and it's very, very important that we deal with that as a society. I'm also thinking that road safety issues should be part of our curriculum. In our schools, they should intensify teachings as far as road safety issues are concerned. They need to review everything. We don't do it here. At the tertiary level, I don't see anything. And I strongly believe that it should be across from basic to the university to help all of us. Right? We need a refresher in terms of this road safety, because the old men are misbehaving, the young ones are misbehaving. Like I said, the moment you sit behind the steering wheel, you become one of them. You are mad. The insults, everything. So let's watch out. So that is my short concluding remarks. And then the last thing, I also think that there's that issue of coordination, and we also have to have a second look at it. We have the police, we have road safety people, we have everybody involved. But is it maybe what effective? Maybe we should have a second look at it. And personally, there should be what another look, so that we kept this and leave in the bag. And it will help all of us. So I would want to conclude by thanking everybody to be here. On behalf of management, we say thank you. I told you the rector should have been here, but he could not come. So I'm just stepping in. So that is the message I want to convey to everybody. Management is grateful for us, for everybody to be here. I hope we are taking something back. And then I also think that if I should comment on that, but I realized that most of the questions were coming from her own students. It shows how attentive her students are. So those who are not here, relay the message to them. We will take marks from them. Yeah, that's it. But thank you very much for being here. And we expect more of this, so we benefit more as students and as lecturers and as a community as a whole. I'm going to say in Jesus' name, but I've stopped that. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Let's thank our chairman. Let's clap for our chairman. He's done a great job. Dean of Journalism, Media and Media Studies, presiding over full power presenter. So that's nice. Interdisciplinary. Very nice. So thanks guys. I just want to acknowledge and express great gratitude to everybody. First of all, to the Rector's Rep, James Asante. Let's appreciate him. But he was not only yesterday, to be honest. So we are very grateful for that. And we hope we can count on you in the future as well. We're also grateful to all the deans for coming here. The FOPAM team for coming to support. That's great. Not all deans do that. So let's thank our team. HODs who are also here, and former HODs as well. Lecturers who are here, and colleagues and faculty, senior mentors, all staff of GIJ who came here, despite their time. Public affairs for being here, we are grateful. I also see some former students. I'm quite excited about that. That they came. Some of you want to rush and graduate from GIJ. I see they are coming back to come and listen. So please,
is that who are family. Thanks for coming back. What's the name again? Abigail, Wise, right? MTN is cutting across a lot of. Yes. And then, what's your name? Juliet. Yeah. So when you finish, don't forget about GIJ. Come back.
Blessing and Papa.
Oh, Blessing. They are. I don't know. They are here and not everything. This is Blessing and then Papa, right? They even work here as well. Okay, so they are some of the brightest people who work here. So great. And also thanks to Drake, the staff, and the support team. Okay, our research officer and the other volunteers. But I also want to thank the media for also coming here to support and to cover. So they do a lot of good job. Let's clap for them too. And everybody, I mean, our guests, the general public, people who just came here to listen, and of course, the students. Thank you. Oh, clap for yourselves. I think you will all agree with me that this has been quite a very, very interesting and great learning experience. Yeah, it's a useful exercise. It's been exciting as well. We are learning, but in a fun way. And the final applause goes to Dr. Priscilla. She'll show the way. It takes a lot of time to do this. Despite everything, she has to do the lectures, PowerPoint, She has to spend time to do this as well. And I've always been looking forward to learning about Chromebacks. Is that your skill of reliability?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I've been seeing all the time Chromebacks. Now I'm able to ask to teach me that. Yeah, reliability. So, Priscilla, I'll be coming. Okay, yeah. So, guys. Thanks for a great event. I wish you a good weekend.
Thank you.
But we'll take a picture.
Yes,
We'll take a picture. We'll start with the faculty and then the students.